Welcome to our Shield of the Sun video entitled French Connection. Well, to all my true brothers and sisters out there in France, I would like to invite you to the storm. Yes, the storm, what Revelation calls trials and tribulations. You will be sharing these trials and tribulations with all your American brothers and sisters in this country, and with your brothers and sisters all over the world, who have to deal with the day in and day out of the lies, manipulation, and all the murderous, racist, and horrible tactics of the people who actually rule the world. Before I really want to get into what this video is about, I should just explain it. The French Connection has nothing to do with a Hollywood movie. It has more to do with the recent events that have taken place in France. Events that are sad, events that are heartbreaking, and events that are not being honestly told. It appears that the American media has given their version, and I'm sure a lot of you have swallowed it up and ate it, as we all have to swallow up and eat things in this country. However, I believe probably a majority of you believed it, while only a minority of you did not believe it. And so we have within this country so many people who have been brainwashed and mind controlled to believe everything the media says, because somehow the media tells them that they're important, they're competent, and they know what they're talking about, when each and every time it's been proven that they do not know what they're talking about, and the media was nothing but an invention of Hollywood entertainment. Knowing that, the media can actually lie to you, by the way. They can lie to you and legally get away with it, because at the end of the day they're listed as entertainment. So, knowing that, let's also understand that the media, American media, has been blocking what a lot of French journalists had to say, and they have been blocking what a lot of former U.S. Marines, either active or non-active, have also said, because these are comments that they do not want you to hear or do not want you to understand. So I have managed to record one interview from one French journalist, and I have managed to record one interview from one American U.S. Marine, who were on the ground and actually there in Paris to tell you about what they've seen and how they view it. This is something that the French media was at least competent enough to release on their end, but the American media, with all of its, well, Nazi tactics of silence and suppression and propaganda, has refused to release within their media outlets. Instead, only World News covered it, wherein World News is usually watched by people in the international field, so the American media and government is probably hoping most of you won't watch World News. Either way, I have captions of the interview, so I will play it and then I will give you my assessment on it.
The origin of the war on terror. The war on terror is, I quote, orchestrated from abroad. These are the words François Hollande used to describe this terrorist attack. Well, the attacks that have been continuing to destroy Syria, to massacre its population, have also been orchestrated from abroad. They were orchestrated by NATO, and they've been carrying these attacks out against the civilian population of Syria for 4 years now. And this is a terrorist campaign that is also orchestrated from abroad. And people in Europe need to understand that there is a war that is becoming global, that is being waged against civilian populations in particular. It is a form of neo-imperialism, neo-colonialism, which aims to divide and conquer European and Middle Eastern and African and the world's population, for that matter, and to make them submit to a global order that does not serve the interests of most of the people on this planet, but that does serve the interests of a very few ruling elite, a very small, tiny, and particularly tyrannical ruling elite. There is no war on terror. There is a war that is being waged using proxy groups, terrorist proxy groups, and they are being used against nation states who are resisting US and Israeli hegemony, and they are also being used as a means of disciplining the workforces in Europe. In a period of mass unemployment and austerity, you now have terrorist attacks being committed by terrorists funded, armed and trained by Western intelligence agencies. There is no such thing as ISIS. ISIS is a creation of the United States. We know that from official sources of the US military themselves. Declassified documents from the Defense Intelligence Agency have confirmed that. And the French government is now attempting to drum up support for more military intervention in Syria. And what they want to do is they want to get in on the game. The game is almost lost. The Russians have routed much of the Islamic State. You now have Islamic State militants coming into Europe disguised as refugees. That will destabilize Central Europe, and the French government wants to get in on the game in Syria and prop up those so-called moderate rebels. There are no moderate rebels, of course, in Syria. There are Al-Qaeda and ISIS militants, terrorists who have been beheading people, eviscerating people, absolutely creating chaos and genocide right across the region. And this does not serve the Syrian people or anyone other than the Western corporate elites and their geopolitical interests. Campaign against dissidents in France. They're very worried about the new media that has emerged in recent years, and they are very worried about the alternative media. So I think you will see, we saw this actually after the attacks in January, you will see a conflation of terrorism and dissidents. So one of the tools which the mass media uses to discredit any kind of rational questioning of the established order, and particularly the war on terrorism, is to deride those who would question the war on terrorism as conspiracy theorists. And I think you're going to see a crackdown on so-called conspiracy theorists and websites that actually publish rational and honest analysis of what is happening. So you're going to see more of that type of intellectual terrorism, which is already at boiling point in France. I mean, it's got to the point now where you have professors in universities who are being intimidated. You have school teachers who are basically being fired for even suggesting that there may be a link between French imperialism and terrorism. There was one case recently, for example, of a school teacher who almost like he's lost his job when he suggested there might be a link between French foreign policy and terrorism. So we are going through a period of deep intellectual terrorism, and of course these random terrorist acts, which are a form of low-intensity civil war. I think that the current crisis, the refugee crisis, which is really a form of coercive engineered migration, because it could have easily been prevented, this form of coercive engineered migration is going to make this a lot worse, and it is going to create the conditions of civil war. It is a natural consequence, of course, of globalization, of financial capitalism. This is essentially what it leads to. I mean, it leads to a breakdown of society. And the only way in which they can kind of keep everybody down is by policy of divide and conquer. So you're going to see a situation where you've got very much a Wahhabized working class in France. They're being Wahhabized by the allies of the French political elite, the Saudis and the Qataris. They're building Wahhabite mosques all over the place. That is going to Wahhabize the youth, and they're going to be then used as pawns, if you like, in much bigger geopolitical wars, proxy wars against Russia, proxy wars against Iran in the Middle East, and so on. And that is going to create massive social unrest. It's going to divide working people against each other. And the only people who are going to actually benefit from this are the war contractors, the military, industrial, media, intelligence complex. So whatever way you look at this, I don't know who exactly committed this attack and this atrocity, but the real people who are responsible, whether directly or indirectly or consciously or unconsciously, is the French government.
Yes, well, I hope actually that it's even more of a wake-up call for us to realize that we are ISIS, that the Western governments that are in bed with Saudi Arabia, who is the primary funder of ISIS, along with Qatar and other Gulf states, we not only provide political cover and military assistance to Saudi Arabia while it slaughters innocent people in Yemen, but we also provide the cover for them to go ahead and do their dirty dealing with these psychopaths who are running around Syria and other parts of the world as well, Iraq. Let us remember that before the United United States invaded Iraq, there was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Look at it today. Let us also remember that when Gaddafi was in power in Libya, there was very little Al-Qaeda. And in fact, now we look at it, and it's an absolute basket case full of these operatives. And we look to Syria as well as yet another example of where these problems were actually quite under control in terms of Al-Qaeda. In fact, Bashar al-Assad was assisting the United States, this is all on record, in a very meaningful way. In fact, many of the tortures that were being carried out were being done by Bashar al-Assad, or at least his regime, in order to extract information from people that we were supposedly fighting. I believe that it is beyond any doubt for any sensible person to realize that not only is the United States providing the financial cover, military cover, political cover for these terrorists through our proxies, but we've also, in pure technical sense, provided the training for these people in Jordan and Turkey. Another one of our best friends has been shuttling these psychopaths across the country from Turkey into Syria for a long time now. So, the idea that the West is actually fighting a war against ISIS is beyond ridiculous. So what we really need to do is start realizing the fact that we are ISIS, and the reason why our corrupt, treasonous governments are carrying out these policies is because they do not represent us. They represent the bankers, and the bankers make a hell of a lot of money off of war, and more importantly, as long as we're all fighting each other, as long as we're all not trusting each other, as long as we're all simply being played as pawns over and over, then they can maintain this tyrannical system of never-ending war. So this is really the wake-up call. What has happened in Paris is us. We are responsible for our corrupt governments, for all of these policies, and even if these individuals who carried this out are not directly working for Mossad, CIA, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all the same thing, even if they did this organically of their own volition, believe me, that is exactly what our so-called governments want. That is what the policy that we've been fostering over and over. And quite frankly, if we're to look at ISIS, ISIS stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. They never attack Israel, and that in itself also tells you a lot about who these individuals are.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. One of the things that Syria and Libya had in common, before their countries were just completely ravaged by Western military, had a lot to do with their banks. The bank in Libya, before it became dissolved in the way that it did, and the bank in Syria are not banks that are controlled by the Khazars. Who are the Khazars? I'm talking about the synagogue of Satan. I'm talking about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, people who say that they are Jews when their whole entire blood lineage and history has absolutely no connection to the Hebraic tribes or the Middle East. In fact, their only connection to Judaism has more to do with the Talmudic religion that is an affront to Christianity. So understand the truth about certain things is that there are many people in French journalism, there are many people in the French government itself, and there are many French people who believe that this attack was perpetrated by their own government. The same way, many American people and even American journalists and even American intelligence officers and military are also convinced that 9/11 was perpetrated by the American government. In Syria, they are being blamed for creating IS. ISIS actually was created by the CIA. The same CIA that is its members are largely built from a satanic order called Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones is an order of death that does pagan rituals, and it is so secretive that even former President George W. Bush refused to talk about it. Even the journalists who asked him the question ended up dead some months after. They said he died of casual causes and such, but people have to wonder. Yes, IS was created by the same CIA who its members, according to certain FBI case files regarding satanic occults, have arrested satanic leaders who were active in the CIA and had covens in Indiana particularly, where they infiltrated the school system to subject kids to abusive and sexual satanic rituals. And so we got to ask ourselves, what is going on in France? Well, I think what's going on in France is the same thing that's going on here. You see, this whole globalization of the world, in their point of view, in the globalistic point of view, will not work for them unless they have World War III. Unless they take down the U.S. Constitution, unless they get full control with their banks, with their military, over all countries around the world. The biggest holdouts are countries in the Middle East and Africa. Yet you notice that countries in the Middle East and Africa are the most turmoil countries in the world. They have a lot of political problems, revolutions, wars, and all kinds of political upheavals. Oftentimes when you ask Africans and Middle Easterns why this all happens, this is not their fault. This often has to do with a political global scheme that goes beyond them and is always bombing and affecting their countries each and every day. I have to live in a country that has a government, a shadow government. We have an open government that says we don't approve of such actions. Then we have a shadow government that absolutely lives for such actions. We have leaders in America that are weak. And what do I mean by weak? I don't mean by militarily weak, but I mean weak in their compassion, weak in their common sense, weak in their spirituality. They have allowed crimes like racism and murder and greed and extortion and the want of power to become their god. They have even accepted alien gods, as they called it, and are willing to serve them at the harm and detrimental murder of their own people. Why do they do this? Because they want to rule the world. Usually when someone says, I'm going to rule the world, we think you're a pretty offbeat person. There must be something wrong with you. Who wants to rule the world? Who wants to rule people's lives? Who wants to wake up in the morning to tell people what to do, how to dress, how to think, how to act, what to believe in? Even rewrite their history and completely lie to them. Who wants to do that? Crazy people want to do that. Narcissistic tyrants want to do that. This is who we got in America running the government. We got one in the White House who's just completely out of his mind. And we got basically presidential candidates who want to be president who also are narcissists and are also pretty much out of their minds as well. It seems that we are losing this country over to global homosexuals and pedophilic, greedy bankers. Because at the end of the day, it's the bankers who are responsible for what happened in France, and it's the bankers who are responsible for what happens in America. It is the synagogue of Satan that's responsible. Understand this, that here's another problem. You'll notice that channels like myself and many other channels have been attacked lately. Channels have been receiving some interesting harassment and some interesting problems. I'm not the only one. Apparently, a lot of channels have been experiencing them. A lot of you who watch my channel do watch these other channels, and so you very much know what I'm talking about. And you're probably wondering, why is that going on? Well, it's because they have a mandate to harass us. They want to do things to us to either cause us to quit, or cause all of you not to watch us anymore, or make you think that there's something wrong with us while forgetting that none of us do channels where we tell you we want a global world empire and we want to rule the world. None of us want to control every single facet of your life. None of us want to brainwash you, poison you, or force you into our lifestyle. None of us want to do anything like that to you. But the very same people who attack our channels and accuse us falsely are the very same people who support a political establishment who wants to do that to you. We represent Jesus Christ to save souls and to bring the truth. That's it. We ask for your support as we in turn serve you. That's it. And what do they ask? They ask you to hate every single person they tell you to hate. They ask you to dress like them. They ask you to forego whatever Christian belief you have to support their homosexuality, their racism, and their race baiting, and remember to vote for the next traitor who will come into the office. They're asking you to support them while they hand this world over to a small group of men who want to rule the world. This is the reality. This is what you must wrap your mind around. Nobody here on this end of true Christianity wants them to continue to rule the world. We do not want any more rulers who are so small-minded that they can't understand the bigger picture and what is better for this country. Indeed, we have to stop letting just anybody into this country, not out of racial motivation, but we have to fix our problems first before we even have a suggestion for anybody in this country around the world. It's clear that if we cannot fix our problems first, we have no business being in anyone else's problems. We have no business bombing countries. We have no business sending American troops to die in other countries for the love of money and oil and other bullcrap. We have no business doing that. We have no business trying to burn the U.S. Constitution. That's crazy. We have no business trying to suppress freedom of speech. We have no business trying to suppress gun rights or individual rights or privacy rights. We have no business doing any of that stuff. Those who do that were considered by our forefathers who founded this country, even with all their bullcrap, the one thing that they came to at least understand is that you have to stand as a United States of America, because a house divided falls. They understood that there will be times where you're going to have to arrest traitors, jail traitors, and maybe even execute traitors legally through the proper sanctions of the law. That may have to happen. Why? Because this is how far the enemy will take it. The enemy is willing to die for his beliefs. He already has. He's going to hell. So what does Satan want? To take his followers down with him, and so his followers will be down for the agenda of Satan. They'll give their lives for it. Because they're deceived. They're out of their minds. They're crazy. This is a video about rationality and sense. It's time to understand what the truth is. They attack our channels because they don't want you to learn anything. That's pretty much it. They don't want you to see what we're actually telling you. And that could actually really help you. They want you to continue to be distracted and not understand what is actually going on. Don't let them do it to you. Don't let them do it to your children. Don't let them do it to your families. Don't let them do it to the ministries that risk their lives and their livelihood just to tell you about what's going on. We do this because the media won't. If the media was doing this, there would be no reason for us to be here. We do this because local churches won't do it. If they did, there would be no reason for us to be here. We write the books we do because mainstream publishing won't publish them. So that's why we have to. We speak on this because the institutions that say they represent Christianity do not speak on it. Instead, they look the other way when homosexuality and Masonic occults get an establishment over their entire institution. They look the other way when crime and sin goes down. And they actually want you also to look the other way and to be polite when you do it. That's not acceptable. In God's sight and in the true doctrine of Christianity is what I speak. That is not acceptable. That will not be acceptable. God says that you will be judged for every careless word and thought that you had. It's all going to come out. It's not going to come out within the reason of man. It's going to come out within the reason of God. God is going to want to know, did you or did you not serve him? You see, God already has the answer to that question. He's just going to expose the reality to you when you get to the other side. And believe me, there is another side. You see, when you die, it's not over. You see, all that spiritual reality that's on the other end is all coming to light. And the darkness of that realm is pushing further into ours. But the light is still there, in control of it all. And God is calling out to those who are willing to follow him. Because sooner or later, all the human race is going to have to enter that world. You can enter it being pardoned, or you can enter it being judged. That choice is up to you. This has been our Shield of the Sun video. Please send a donation to the name Miguel Jimenez, spelled Miguel-Jimenez. Please send it to that name and not Shield of the Sun. The address is P.O. Box 39204, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28278. You can also purchase the books written by me, Michael Herr, at lulu.com, called Spiritual Science, Volume 1, Hollywood Perdition, Shadows of the Music Industry, The Wrestling and the New World Order, The First Kingdom, Volume 1 and 2. You can send something to PayPal at shieldofthesun@gmail.com. There will be another book coming out very soon. God bless you, and good night.